Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Megacast. My name is Dave. Scott. Tyler Kieft is here in our Lakes FM studios in West Bloomfield. We thank you for joining us. The Megacast is not a radio broadcast. It's not a television broadcast. It's not even a podcast. It is all of the above and more. Today, the Megacast is on television, on cable in the West Bloomfield area. You'll find us on Civic Center TV, Channel 15, Channel 99 on AT&T. You could tune in all across southeastern Michigan, wherever you happen to be. Go to AT&T, go to Channel 99. You'll find community television in there. Go in and hit West Bloomfield and then click on Civic Center TV. A lot of steps, but it's worth it. You will be with us for the next couple of hours. Actually, the easiest way to watch the show is to go to civiccentertv.com, civiccentertv.com. Right at the top of the homepage, you'll find our video player, and then just tune in and watch. Now, for many of you, we know you're busy around the area and you're listening on the radio. We have some great radio stations that bring the broadcast to you every day. Our flagship, where we are right now in our studios, 89.3 Lakes FM in the West Bloomfield Commerce Township, Bloomfield Hills area. But actually, with a better signal in Bloomfield Hills is 88.1 WBFH, the BIF, covering Bloomfield and Birmingham and much more. And just off to the east of that is WAHS, 89.5 Avondale Community Radio. And they got a great signal covering a bunch of our area. If you're in Pontiac, you can listen. If you're in Birmingham, if you're in Troy, if you're out in the Waterford area, a lot of ways to listen on the radio, and we hope that you do just that. So we have today's Megacast for you, and it all started out as Tyler Kieft comes in the studio, and we say good morning to Tyler. It all started out with Beaumont making a huge announcement today. And Tyler, they said in a press conference that we aired on many of our stations moments ago that they had a terrible first quarter. They have had to lay off a bunch of people, and they are in the midst of a real financial crisis at Beaumont.
Yeah, this morning, CEO John Fox announced 2,475 temporary layoffs, and then Beaumont is cutting 450 positions permanently. They will receive a lump sum severance, those permanent position cuts, and have an option to continue their benefits throughout the term of the severance. But almost 2,500 jobs temporarily laid off. Beaumont's saying that surgical and other revenue has almost completely dried up or is gone because of the COVID-19 crisis, and that their ICU volume has increased about 40%. Additionally, part of the reason for the financial troubles is that the prices for PPE, or personal protective equipment, for Beaumont to acquire, those prices have skyrocketed. What used to be $1 have now become several dollars.
Well, and the thing that just brings to light, if a hospital is having financial trouble right now, it just brings to light the economic challenges across our entire landscape right here. And, you know, this is a big challenge for everybody. We're going to talk to Rob Fowler, CEO of the Small Business Association of Michigan, SBAM, and we really appreciate him taking time. We'll talk about the PPP. We'll talk about small businesses. We'll talk about you and your business and how this is all affecting you coming up on the program. Greg Flynn checks in from the West Bloomfield Police Department. We'll check into our own Dr. Sanjay Gupta here on our show. That is Dr. Jamie Taweel, an internal medicine specialist, and he checks in today. And, oh, look at this. Pat Watson checks in. Our friend Pat Watson, Superintendent to the Bloomfield Hills School District. I've been using his quote every day, Tyler. You know, Watson came on the show a couple of weeks ago, didn't he? And he said, Dave, hope is not a plan. Hope is not a plan. And, you know, that just resonates so much right now. And we all have to have a plan during this coronavirus crisis. We'll see what the plan is and how things are going in the Bloomfield Hills School District in a little bit. But here's some people joining us right now, and they know all about hope and plans because they took a crisis and they took hope and turned it into an amazing plan. Joining us, and you can see them now via Zoom, is Desi and Victoria Johnson. And hi, guys. How you doing? Welcome to the Megacast.
Good morning. Good morning, guys.
So, Des Fit is Des to Fit. Is that correct? Is that the name of your?
Absolutely, Des to Fit.
Des to Fit. So tell us about your business, tell us about your struggles, and tell us about your solution.
Absolutely. Well, Des to Fit is actually a corporate wellness organization. Basically, what we do is we go into different companies and we help them design their health, wellness, and nutrition platform. So anywhere from challenges, anywhere from creating healthy lifestyle seminars, and actually providing them with our executive white collar fit camps on deck. We also partner with local gyms and boutique fitness centers in the area, and we bring something that we call a 8-week challenge program, where we basically get everyone feeling really, really good and healthy and all of that good stuff. Well, unfortunately, like everyone else, we've been impacted. We were hit really hard, obviously, with the social distancing, obviously with the lockdown. Of course, we can't teach large fitness classes or have large fitness seminars, and the gyms closed down. So with that, there goes our business. But, fortunately, we've, had a very, very large network of corporations and community groups and a large clientele. And we decided, what we decided to do?
Yeah, we just took everything online. So we went to Facebook and Instagram, and we also use Zoom to virtually bring our classes to everybody.
That is such a great idea. Not easy to do, so congratulations on your implementation. Desi and Victoria Johnson from Des to Fit joining us today. I'll tell you, we've seen what's going on in the African American community and how the coronavirus has had a greater impact. And I can tell you, as a 61-year-old business person who doesn't get enough exercise, that, I need this too, because we're not taking care of ourselves. It's always been an issue. But now if you don't take care of yourself, you make yourself more vulnerable to this pandemic. So I'm all motivated, and I hope a lot of other people are, and it's so critical what you guys are doing to keep people healthy now. How's it working virtually? Is it working out okay? Is it working out all right for you guys?
It's working out really well, to be honest with you. Again, we're more face-to-face. I mean, fortunately for us, we've always had a bit of a smaller online platform, but it wasn't the core of our business. But, again, you just made a great point. Right now is the absolute best time to really be on top of your health. And that's everything health. Let's talk about mental health. Let's talk about the physical aspect of health, everything, and the nutrition aspect of it. So it's going well for us because our clientele, they're realizing that you can't get to the gym. So it's very important that they're utilizing that time to spend with us, whether it's online, just to make sure that they're doing their part to keep their immune system strong, that keep everything right for them, so they won't be as susceptible to this virus that we're dealing with right now.
Desi and Victoria Johnson joining us. Desi and Victoria Johnson from Des to Fit joining us via Zoom, and we appreciate it. Can you give us a couple of tips? So we're isolated in our house. We can't get to the gym. Maybe we don't have any workout equipment in our house. What can we do to at least get ourselves started, especially folks that have not been getting a lot of exercise?
Well, there's a lot of things in your house that you can use in lieu of using weights. Like, for instance, we use water bottles or water jugs. For instance, you can utilize a chair to do certain exercises. I mean, there's tons of ways that you can really get yourself going in your house without actually needing equipment.
Absolutely. And again, the weather is improving. I mean, starting to, sometimes it's warm, sometimes it snows. It's Michigan, right? But again, obviously the great outdoors, going into your backyard, doing the jump rope, doing some jogging, I talked about a little bit about this today, about just getting out there with your children and keeping them active. Unfortunately, they don't have the ability to go to football camp or track camp and get the gym education that's offered in the school systems. They can't do that right now. So again, it's very important as the parent to use that time with them as a family time, which also brings health and fitness to you, working out and doing active things with the kids. That's anywhere from walking to jogging and just even tossing the football. There's so much that you can do at the home.
Well, no question about it. Any activity is good, and we do get isolated in our homes, and it is easy. And I'll tell you what, I'm cooking a lot more. A lot of people probably are. It's easy. You start, spending all evening in your kitchen. You got nothing else to do. You cook up a big meal. It's pretty easy to put on a few pounds. So you got to watch it. What are you doing with your, what kind of programs do you have with your virtual classes? How are you getting people started? And in particular, Desi and Victoria Johnson from Des to Fit. What kind of things are you doing for people that haven't been involved in your virtual programs before?
Yeah, you know what? Let me go ahead and tell you. We actually have 3 different products that we're utilizing right now. One of our products that we're using is a private online personal training program. So just like you guys are looking at me right now, we're offering personal training services where myself or my wife will actually be doing and showing you the actual programs face to face. We also have another online training platform which involves a created workout program. It is a monthly program, so we create your workout program for 5 days out of the week, your cardio program, and we also design your nutrition program. On that, you'll have access to live video demonstrations as well. The third product is absolutely free. We are doing 3 fitness classes per week. We're actually getting ready to add more coming next month, depending on how things go, where it's unlimited fitness classes, absolutely free. All you'll need to do is follow us on social media, which is Des to Fit on Facebook, Des to Fit on Instagram, and then we're also have it set up on Zoom as well, just in case you don't have social media. So anywhere from cardio sculpts to the boot camps, to the toning exercises, to the dance fitness, to yoga, to Pilates, all of that is being offered free. What we want to do is get back to our community, and the way we want to do this is to create a platform, because we know some folks have been hurt economically due to this pandemic, and we want to make sure that we're able to offer services free as well.
All right, well done, and I thank you for coming on the show. We'll get our social media connected, and we'll get you on our webpage and our social media. If you guys want to do the same, we appreciate more exposure for what we're doing so we can get the word out through you. That's what that whole social media thing is all about. So you've done a great job navigating through these waters, and now, as we, in this tough time, we got to be more than specialists in our industry. We got to know how to, get together with people in the community through these online channels, and you guys have done a really good job. And thanks for giving back. We'll let people know about the free programs and the subscription programs, and I thank you to Desi and Victoria. Thank you very much. Before we say so long, we could see you. Are you guys at your house right now, or where are you?
Yeah, we're just sitting in our family room right now, and we're both actually getting ready to go to our other jobs. We're both essential workers as well.
All right. Well, thank you for whatever it is that you do. Thank you very much for doing your part, and let's keep in touch, all right?
Hey, take care. Thanks for having us on, you guys. Have a great day and be safe out there.
Thank you very much. I love it, Tyler. We're off to a good start. Desi and Victoria Johnson helping you stay fit, and we'll get links to their free programs throughout our social media outlets. So love what they're doing. Another good example.
Yeah, I think that what they said about this being the perfect time to stay on top of your health is right on point. I mean, keeping fit, keeping active is so vital to the rest of your life, especially in these very stressful times. I know from my own experiences that the more active I am, I feel sharper, I feel more energized, I'm able to be a little more creative, and I just feel better overall. So any activity that you can get right now, it's good to do it, and it'll help you in other parts of your life as well.
It is indeed. So let's take a minute and and take a look at our headlines for the day, our coronavirus headlines. You'll find all of these on our website. Go to civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. And for those of you watching on TV, you can see it right now, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Our producer, Jeff, is doing a great job keeping this page up to date. On the top of the page, you see Governor Whitmer defends stay-at-home order. And yesterday during her media conference, Tyler, she did not do what some people thought she might do, and that is release new information about how we're going to come out of this. That did not happen. She just asked people to stick in there for the next 10 days. We're in a really interesting spot right now because her orders can only stay in effect for 10 days because she needs approval from the legislature to continue on with these emergency orders. And we'll see what happens and whether all of that is going to be maintained. But the information is right there on the coronavirus page, Civic Center TV, and the debates are popping up in all the media right now. You've got some plans coming out from the Republicans in the Michigan legislature, plans coming out from her, and then a lot of organizations are chiming in. We've heard from many of them on this show, all the special interest groups, whether it be the folks in the landscaping industry or the retailers or the boating industry. All the industries are weighing in and giving the governor and the legislature their feedback. And we're going to have more of that in just a couple of minutes because Rob Fowler, the CEO of the Small Business Association of Michigan, will check in, and I'm sure his organization is going to have some feedback as well.
I would presume that also, Dave. Every business, as you said, is being affected by this, and people have different stands. Some people are taking a little bit neutral of a stand and saying that, yes, I understand we have to keep safe. We should be following these guidelines, but there has to be a healthy medium, and I think that's what everyone's looking for right now.
As I've said a couple of times, it's going to be much more complicated getting out of this than getting into it. There's going to be a lot of debate, and it could get partisan. And it could get a little edgy, so everyone's got to keep their heads and work on it. We will find the solution. The folks at Beaumont held a press conference shortly ago, and you may have heard it here on some of our stations. Beaumont lays off 2,475 employees and puts 400 positions on pause. Terrible news out of Beaumont. I think the number, I didn't write it down here, but the number, Tyler, I think you've probably got it in your notes. It was over $1 billion in losses in the first quarter. Is that correct?
No, it was $278.4 million losses.
Quarter of $1 billion. Still a lot of money, you know, and you think hospitals are busy. You don't think that they're having the financial troubles, but on the other hand, they got a lot going on, a lot of money going out the door, treating more people in their emergency rooms and their intensive care rooms, so we'll keep an eye on that. We have a phone call out to some of the other health systems in our area, Henry Ford, West Bloomfield, and St. Joe, to see what their situation is like. I'm sure we're going to hear from them in the next couple of days. From West Michigan, 60 workers tested positive at a meat processing plant. We've seen some of those reports elsewhere around the country, but now one a little bit closer to home. And you know, I pulled that hamburger out of the freezer this morning, and now I'm wondering, well, I wonder if it came from that meat packing plant in West Michigan. Maybe going to be a little more careful about the way I prepare my dinner tonight, but certainly a lot of concern. And you know, even if the meat that we're getting is safe, and I'm sure and I hope it is, it just lets you know we got to be careful as we come out of this, because 60 workers in that plant are positive. It's just another reminder that the coronavirus spreads through a workplace quickly if you're not careful, and maybe even if you are. So just a heads up for folks as we come out of this thing. We got to come out of this smart. We got to do it the right way, and I would advise you to take a minute, read that story online today if you get a chance. Here's something, I don't know if you've experienced this, Tyler. I have. They're talking about, with this, we can add this to our vocabulary of coronavirus terms. Coronavirus pandemic dreams. Coronavirus pandemic dreams. They say right now people are having some really unusual dreams. And there's a story on our website about it today. You might want to go look. But apparently what's going on is because there is less activity in our days and we're staying home, when we go to bed at night, there's less information for our brains to process. So in the absence of things going on, stories that come from the day into our subconscious, into our dreams, our brain's got to replace that with something, and it comes up with really weird dreams. To paraphrase this whole thing, that's essentially the story. I get it. I've had it myself, and if you've been watching the news accounts from people that have had the coronavirus, even more so, they're even more isolated. They've had, even more profound odd dreams, and it may not necessarily be, pharmaceutical. It may just be because they don't have much going on in their environment, as the story suggests.
Yeah, there's a lot less activity, and so your brain is replacing that activity when you're sleeping, and that's a point of time where your brain's already highly active, and so at that point, all that creativity, all the subconscious efforts are being packed into the creative portions of your brain, I guess, and that just makes for some really weird dreams.
Yeah, really weird. Now, Chris Cuomo, who everyone I think knows from CNN, the CNN anchor, Chris Cuomo has been isolated in his house, and he was saying the other day to Dr. Gupta, he said, man, I've been having the weirdest dreams. And so now we have a little bit of explanation. I was thinking, well, maybe it's just something of the viruses is affecting people, but it's not. If you're having strange dreams, don't worry about it. It doesn't mean you got the coronavirus. It's normal, and a lot of people are. And we'll talk about it more in the show. We'll get one of our psychologists who we've had on the show to come on and talk about that. University of Michigan says they probably have taken a $1 billion hit. That's where I got that $1 billion number. University of Michigan saying today in the news, a $1 billion hit. I think of the potential lost revenue from football and athletics, but it goes a lot further than that. And Tyler, I'm sure very similar situation at your alma mater up there in East Lansing.
I don't have exact numbers on that, but I would presume it's about the same with all the students that have moved out, with any relief that has been given for tuition, room and board, and such. All the revenue that they lose at the dining halls and that are lost from sporting events. We lost the Big Ten tournament and other sporting events later on. There's a lot of loss coming into these schools, and I'm not surprised by that $1 billion number at all.
University of Michigan, $1 billion hit, and you just can't replace that,
No.
And so as we talk about our economy coming back, we hope it's going to come back strong, but there certainly are going to be challenges. And here across the state of Michigan, $10.4 billion in the Paycheck Protection Program were distributed here in the state of Michigan, $10.4 billion. So those are people that were able to get through all the bureaucracy and get that payday loan. And then, another note here, Comerica, who had an awful lot of trouble processing those loans, now has their automatic system online. So hopefully some good news. We'll hear from Rob Fowler in a couple of minutes, the CEO of the Small Business Association. Tyler, I was really happy last night to watch the Zoom meeting that the West Bloomfield Township Board held, and they seem to be doing a pretty good job, as well as many of our communities all around our listening area here in Oakland County, doing a really fine job holding their meetings via Zoom. It seems to be working out okay.
Yeah, it's been working really well. I've had the pleasure of sitting in on pretty much every meeting that we've done over Zoom since this process began, and we've had meetings from all of the 3 communities in the school district that we do municipal meetings for, and they're all handling them very well. They're getting the kind of the technical abilities of Zoom down and being able to hold meetings regularly. And West Bloomfield last night held their regular meeting, and for the most part, it was flawlessly executed, and they got the work done that they needed to get done, and also had great input from staff members and from the public as well.
All right, so those are the headlines, my friends. Thank you very much for joining us. This is the Megacast. I'm Dave Scott, Tyler Kieft over there on the other side of the studio. We thank you for joining us. Thanks to our great radio stations that are tuning in, that you are tuning in to this morning as you're listening, and that includes WAHS 89.5 Avondale Community Radio. A big thank you to 88.1 WBFH The Biff, and to Biff listeners in Bloomfield Hills, your superintendent of schools. Patrick Watson will be joining us in the 11 o'clock hour today. We look forward to hearing from him. And thank you very much for tuning in on 89.3 Lakes FM. Don't forget, all the information you need is on our website at civiccentertv.com. We are live there, and a big thank you today to the West Bloomfield Fire Department, who has been so kind as to make their Facebook channel available for us for our Facebook Live. We're going to take a quick break. I see Rob Fowler on my screen, so we'll get to him in just a couple of moments, the CEO of the Small Business Association of Michigan. Oakland County, thank you very much for tuning in. This is the Megacast, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jonay Caldoun. We know that COVID-19 is spreading rapidly across Michigan right now. The most important thing people can do to protect themselves is social distancing. That means unless you are a critical infrastructure worker or going out to get food or medicine for your home, you should be staying at home. Stay home, stay safe, save lives.
Hi, I'm Oakland County Executive Dave Coulter. Our top priority remains slowing the spread of COVID-19 in our communities. Please stay home, and when you must go out to an essential business, take precautions like social distancing and washing your hands when you come home. Because of the pandemic, we are behind in our response rate in Michigan. While you are home, please take a few minutes to fill out the census. It is more important than ever that we receive money back from our federal government. The census is Oakland Together.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the Megacast all across Oakland County on 88.1 WBFH in Bloomfield Hills, 89.3 Lakes FM in West Bloomfield, Commerce Township, and the surrounding areas, and WAHS 89.5 Avondale Community Radio. Thanks to our community television stations that are carrying the broadcast. Thanks for watching on CivicCenterTV.com, and thanks to the West Bloomfield Fire Department. We have a Facebook partner every day. They are our Facebook partner today, and we thank them for sharing their Facebook audience. Tyler, these Facebook audiences have been huge. We get like thousands of people every day tuning in on these various Facebook channels, so we really appreciate it. Oh, I'm sorry, there you go.
Yeah, they've been great partners for us. They've been really helpful in spreading the good word, and we hope that we've been doing the same with them.
We are doing our very best to keep in touch with all the issues here in our local community, getting a very local perspective of what's going on. But there's an awful lot of important information coming at us from a statewide perspective. And we are so kind and so happy, not kind, but happy this morning to be joined by Rob Fowler, the CEO of the Small Business Association of Michigan. He's taking time out for a little broadcast. And Rob, good morning. We see you fine on Zoom. Welcome to the Megacast.
Good morning, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for being with us. We really appreciate it. I'm very familiar with your association, but our listeners and viewers might not be. Tell us about the Small Business Association of Michigan, who your members are, and what your function is.
Yeah, thank you. You may think of us as a sort of a chamber of commerce just for small businesses. We're a membership organization. Our members are small businesses. You have to be a business owner to actually be sort of in our room. So we're all about the small business owner. We have 28,000 members from all across the state, makes us the largest small business organization in the country. And at this moment, we are all about helping small businesses navigate. And I say small businesses because it's not just about our members at this moment. At this point in time, we've basically taken down the membership requirements and said any small business in Michigan who needs help, we have really put together the resources that are Michigan specific and small business specific, and really try to make sure that those are available to every small business in our state.
Well, I think the good thing that small business people can grasp on is that we're important. Small business people are important. If you didn't think that was the case, you should be really happy now, because all the media accounts, all the members, your elected officials, from the governor to the president, everyone seems to be focusing on the impact that small business can have. And Rob Fowler, CEO of the Small Business Association of Michigan, we need help with navigating through this. And let's just start with the employees here in the state of Michigan. We're on the front line of keeping people working, small businesses like mine and the people that you talk to. And we got our hands full right now. Looking at the numbers, I saw a report yesterday, over 1 million people here in the state of Michigan have filed for unemployment.
Right, 1 million people. We are third highest in the nation in unemployment, and we're third highest in the nation in deaths from this COVID-19 crisis. And that puts us in some dubious territory that no other state is that high in both. So we have the crisis on both sides. We have the healthcare crisis, and we have the economic crisis. And absolutely, it's affecting small business in a pretty profound way. Large companies are not likely to go out of business because of this. They're likely to have a bad quarter or a bad year. But small businesses are in a life or death battle in many, many cases. They are shut down, closed, with no income and ongoing expenses. And so there's been an interesting response from both the Congress and the state. And I hope we can talk about that in a little bit. But it is life or death for a lot of businesses right now. We just did a survey, 1,300 businesses responded, and 44% of them are closed, meaning they are not considered to be critical infrastructure and simply had to shut down. And you can't just turn an on-off switch on a business. You can't shut it down and then flip the switch and hope that it goes right back to where it was. I think we're about to find out that simply isn't the way it works.
Well, I think we are going to find that out. And as I've said for the past several days, turning this thing back on is going to be a lot harder than turning it off. I mean, it was brutal turning it off. I don't want to minimize how tough those decisions were, but it's complicated to turn it back on. Different interest groups have different perspectives in how we turn it back on. Your number is sobering, 44% closed. And then we hear even like big businesses like Beaumont, the big news today, they're facing big problems. So we really need our small businesses to do the very best they can. Let's talk about the big program small businesses are, the big lifeline that we're all reaching for right now. There's a number of them, but the biggest one is a Paycheck Protection Program. And I think even if you're not a business person, almost everyone's aware of it. It's been in the media so much. It's money that hopefully is a forgivable loan that small businesses can use to keep their employees on board for at least 8 to 10 weeks. And a lot of small businesses really had trouble applying for that. I could tell you my own personal story, but what are you hearing from businesses around the state of Michigan as to how that first round, which we've used up all the money, but how that first round of applications went for businesses in Michigan?
Yeah, so interesting question. I agree. I think so. There's some other programs through the SBA. There's some programs through the state. They're worth paying attention to. But if you only got a little bit of time, the Paycheck Protection Program is the lifeline. And I've been at the advocacy business for small business for over 30 years, and I never thought I would say the Congress of the United States gave a lifeline to small businesses. That's what this Paycheck Protection Program is. It allows you to get a loan for 2.5 times your average monthly payroll. And if you spend it on payroll, rent, and utilities, it's a forgivable loan. It's a grant. And that may very well be what will make the difference between whether a company succeeds or fails in this whole thing. So the PPP is the big one, as you said, but $349 billion within 2 weeks was all spent. And I'm not surprised in some ways. But so I think there's a sort of patent unfairness about it that in just the way it happened. Clearly, so Michigan got $10.3 billion of that, almost 24,000 loans. The average loan size was $238,000. So that'll tell you that the larger of the small businesses consume most of that loan. And what's left behind were the smaller of the small businesses, the ones for whom it is probably the most critical that they get this help. And we've talked to so many of them who were standing in line, if you will, when the money dried up. And that's the sort of heartbreaking story we've been hearing. Our hope is, and what we hear from talking to our congressional delegation, is that there is an agreement in Washington that they will come back and do some additional funding. We're hearing $300 to $310 billion more, maybe another $50 billion in the economic injury disaster loan program through the SBA as well. So if that happens, and I believe then what we'll see is the really small businesses, the really dire businesses get that funding. And I hope it's in time, because I mean, we're talking about being able to make payroll, and if it's not, by the time the next payroll runs around, you don't have the money, you're in trouble. And I think we've got a lot of small businesses who are in that spot. So Paycheck Protection Program is the thing, the game in town. We hope everybody will pay attention to it, and I think help is on the way.
Well, do what you can and urge your member of Congress to get the new package signed. They're working on it. It hopefully will get done in the next couple of days, and then it can get in the hands. I could just tell you, as an operator of a small business, every week that you wait, small businesses, you're right, Rob Fowler, you said it so well. Small businesses, I'm not saying that we live payroll to payroll, but most of us live month to month or quarter to quarter. We don't have the resources to let a year go by. And a lot of small businesses run a lot tighter than that. And, my business, I was fortunate that I had a banking relationship, but even it was, I did get a PPP loan. I haven't seen the money yet. But I'm hoping it's coming. But a lot of businesses, don't have a banking relationship. They couldn't get in time. That even if you applied, I applied the first day. Just one story, Rob, which is what we like to do in the show because we're real local and, just share what's really happening. This is not the president saying, here's how the PPP works. I applied the moment that you could apply, and I barely made it in. The day I saw in the national news the fund exhausted was the day I got my email from the SBA saying we made it in. So if you didn't get in and apply right away, if you didn't have a relationship with a bank, if you didn't know how to navigate these waters, forget it. You didn't make it. And so now you're right. I hope that all these businesses and people listening today, when they open this money up, don't wait. Get right into your bank. Rob, can you even work on applying for it now before the money is there and talk to your banker about what your plans should be? You
can. Yes. Part of the reality is some banks were more prepared than others. It's not a secret that one very large bank, America Bank, never really got its portal open before the money ran out. And so the advice that was given from the SBA to the banks and from organizations like ours to small business owners is go to your bank, work with your banker, whether that's a lending relationship or just a pure deposit kind of relationship, start with your bank. But if your bank was one of those that never got out of the starting gate, you didn't get your loan. Yeah. And we think there were two really big ones that kind of dropped the ball. And they've taken their lumps in the media and that sort of thing. But if you are a banking customer of those banks, you are depending upon them to have the technology and the people and the staff to get your loan processed. And I think everybody's now prepared. So if there's a second wave of this funding, I don't think we'll have that problem again. I do think the interesting part is that the banks that really kind of came out of that the best were the smaller community banks. They were.
And we saw that too, Rob. And it was funny because Rob Fowler, CEO of the Small Business Association of Michigan, this is what I'm hearing from folks. And folks that didn't apply to big bank like I did, a couple of days later, we're getting a hold of their community bank. And the community banks, were able to move that stuff through and make it happen pretty quickly, even if they weren't there on day one. So, if you didn't get through on round one, you do talk to everybody. And I assume that it might not be a bad idea to call your local chamber, to call the Small Business Association of Michigan, and other business resources. There are, I would say, a lot of good too. If anyone asked, well, I'll just say it, you don't have to ask. The Business Development Unit in Oakland County, they are also amazing. They really help out, and you can call them, and they'll help point you in the right direction too. Are there other countywide organizations around the state that work similar to what we have in Oakland County?
Well, every local economic development organization is a little bit different, but in some ways they're all the same too. They really are. And I think at this moment, they are very much focused on helping those existing companies navigate and survive this process. So I think, our organization is doing what we call a daily brief, 3:00 every day on Facebook Live. You can find that at our website, sbam.org. And I think what we're finding right now is there is a thirst for information. It's so fluid, it's changing so regularly. Even the PPP as it rolled out, or the economic injury disaster loans as they played out, the rules sort of changed along the way. So I think what we're finding is there's just this hunger for information, and we've been trying to provide that every single day. 3:00 in a daily briefing. Today we have the governor on, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, you guys are doing a great job. Your briefings are outstanding, and that's part of the reason I wanted to have you on here. You guys are doing a great job of those briefings. We look forward to hearing from the governor. I'm going to ask you some questions about the governor in a minute. Just want to get one more question before we move on from this business financing issue. You were correct in saying that there are other loan programs available, and that we might see some more money for the other big one, the disaster relief program from the SBA. Are you encouraging small businesses to apply for both that and the Paycheck Protection Program? There was some confusion as to whether you could do that.
Yeah, well, you can. I think it's a strategy question for a lot of businesses. So the EIDL, or EIDL is what a lot of people are calling it. The EIDL loan is the advantage of it is it's the first $10,000 is a grant, and it just gets pushed to you. This is one of those, it was the original law or bill that passed, Family's First piece of legislation, put $8 billion into this program. It's at the SBA. So you apply through the Small Business Administration. They had some difficulties. There were some sort of changing rules at the very beginning. I think it is finally settled in, but it's out of money as well. And the Congress is talking about $310 billion for Paycheck Protection and $50 billion for this one. So I would say it's worth looking at. You can't spend it on the same thing, so you can't sort of double dip. But if you have, other expenses that are related to the slowdown you're witnessing right now, it's another thing for you to consider. And I think that's the 1-2 punch, is the Paycheck Protection and the economic injury disaster loan. The state of Michigan put up $20 million early on in the process, given out through local economic development organizations, and that is, I think, all gone at this point. But $20 million didn't go very far, as we knew it wouldn't. But that was mostly for the very first round of companies affected, bars and restaurants by and large. And the well is dry right now at the state and federal level. We think it's about to get refilled at the federal level. And
Rob, thank you for sharing all that. I hope this isn't inside baseball for our listeners, but I'll tell you what, if you own a business, this is really important. If you don't own a business, thanks for putting up with this for the last 10 or 15 minutes, but it's interesting for everybody. And very quickly, for folks that are not business owners, you're getting a check too. And you're also, a lot of people that are on unemployment are getting both state and federal unemployment dollars. So there's that program, there's the checks that are going in the mail, or checks that people already got. So there are a number of programs out there. No matter what we do, Rob Fowler, CEO of Small Business Association of Michigan, there will not be enough money to solve everybody's problems. So, just do the best you can, and hopefully this will work out. You said you're going to have the governor on your call today. Governor held a presser yesterday, didn't really get into the details of how she would like to see the next steps for Michigan. Michigan legislature, the Republicans in particular, have come in and said they have a program that that takes counties like Oakland County, where we are, and moves us a little bit slower here, but moves other parts of the state a little bit quicker. Where's the Small Business Association of Michigan, and how we are going to get out of this mess?
Well, I guess I would say, first of all, I'm sympathetic to the governor and the difficult choices she's had to make. I do think, the voice of public health has been appropriately very strong in her ear, and in the president's ear for that matter. But what I can tell you is every single day that passes, more and more small businesses will not recover, will not survive. And that has to be balanced in this whole thing. So we are a voice that says we need to get this open as soon as we can safely. That we could wait too long to open it too. So we're certainly at the table having a conversation about what are the circumstances and what is the timing for opening the economy back up. I don't think anybody believes that it's just going to flip a switch and we'll be back to the way we were before. We think there'll be a phase back in. Geography may be one of those things to consider. There are counties in Michigan that have less than 5 cases and no deaths of coronavirus. So there's a case for using geography as a way to think about opening the economy back up. There are certainly activities that are less risky. And so you've heard this conversation about landscaping and lawn mowing and some of those sort of things that are not allowed currently, that we think there's another case for some of the low risk activities. And then I think we're going to see a very different workplace, at least in the short term, with personal protective equipment for employees, with a health screening on the way in to work, in public places. I think it'll be a while before we have big meetings that we're accustomed to having, and it's going to really change the way we probably spend the rest of this year. But we certainly think the governor's kind of signaled that the current executive order is in place through April 30th. We've joined with 6 other states in a sort of a partnership. Among those states, we're all talking about May 1st as the beginning of the next phase. The question will be, what is in that next phase? What does it look like? And how quickly do we get back to normal?
Well, it's an interesting time, and it's a difficult time, and the governor has a very difficult job. There's no question about it. Trying to write these rules I don't care where you weigh in and if you're a big fan of hers or not. It's difficult to write those rules without drawing some lines that people are going to have a problem with. And the other thing I really do applaud her for, I think it's great she's going to be in your call today. I think it was great that she was on Paul W.'s show this morning on WJR. He's conservative, she's liberal, they're going to go, but the dialogue is happening there, okay? And we're seeing dialogue from Washington to the state of Michigan, and the dialogue that you're having is good. Structurally, she cannot put any more executive orders in place after the 30th of April without participation from the legislature. So they're going to have to work out some kind of a compromise. And I think it comes down to, and I'd like your thoughts on this, it comes down really to business acting responsibly, because wherever we end up, it's going to open up a little bit, maybe a lot. But now we business owners, it's on us. We got to make sure that we're operating our businesses properly. We don't let people get sick. Up to now, it's been we don't, the populace doesn't really know how to handle this, so we're going to shut everything down. Now we start opening things up, and there's a lot more responsibility on all of us to execute this properly. Your thoughts?
Well, I couldn't agree more, and I think we're beginning to have some insight into what's happening in other countries as they're a little ahead of us and reopening their economies. I think, again, we're going to be looking at brand new processes and procedures in workplaces that will be about social distancing continuing and, probably wearing face protection and having surfaces washed on a regular basis and those sort of things in the workplace. I actually worry a little bit that people aren't going to come back out, that the consumers aren't going to come back out. I think one of the things we're seeing in China is, they have opened up, and yet people aren't getting out. So I worry that people are going to go to stores and restaurants that they may have been conditioned to buy online or to do carry out, and that the restaurants and retailers and others are really going to have a tough time, even with people having $1,200 stimulus check in their pocket and maybe enhanced unemployment. The employment with the state and federal is $932 a week at its max, yeah. And so I mean it won't be because there isn't spendable money or consumers aren't going to have money in their pocket. I think it will be because of fear that may keep people in. So back to work is going to be interesting, both in the rules and the procedures that are going to be in place. But the people's response to that, I think, will be interesting too. And among other things, I think we all need to be thinking about how do we, when it's safe and with good procedures in place, how do we encourage consumers to consume locally and support their local businesses?
Well, and we set this show up to provide information during the coronavirus so people knew what was happening on a local level. You can watch all the national news, but what's happening on Orchard Lake Road? What's happening on Big Beaver? Where can you go get tested today? Up at the Oakland County facility. This is really where it all happens here in the front line. And you're right, Rob Fowler, CEO of Small Business Association of Michigan. Tyler, our job's going to even be more important when this thing comes to some kind of an end, to get people out in the community. I appreciate your thoughts. Just one other thing, Rob. It's not only consumers. I can already tell you in my business, some of the employees aren't too excited about going back to work either. We got to get them out of their house. We've been telling people for the past month, you're walking outside, you're going to die. I don't want to be overdramatic like I shouldn't, but essentially we've been putting out some pretty scary messaging, and I get it. People aren't going to just jump in their cars and go back to normal. Good point.
No, I think that's exactly right. I think it will be difficult to get people to come back and feel safe. I think it will be difficult to get customers to come back and feel safe. And that'll be the job for all of us, I think, as we get our economy going again. It wasn't that long ago, 8 weeks or 7 weeks even, that we have a really tight labor force, that the economy was humming along as well as it's done in many of our memories. And, can we get back to that? I hope so. But it's going to take a lot of people beginning to just not live in fear, but to have a belief that things are going to be safe again.
Rob Fowler, CEO of Small Business Association of Michigan. Thanks for all your time today. I appreciate your thoughts. So the governor is going to be in your call. She's going to share things with you. Are you going to share anything? I don't want to, I guess I do want the inside track before it happens. Are you going to share anything with her on that call today, a message you want to give to the governor?
Well, we've completed a poll, a survey that we are releasing today, and I think we're going to make sure that she has that in her hands. It's sobering. I knew it would be, but it is. 14% of the businesses we surveyed think that they are at risk of not being able to survive this or likely out of business. 14%. Well, if you have 14% of the businesses don't make it, that is catastrophic to the economy. So you started this, Dave, by talking about how everybody says small business is important. Every elected official, every political figure I've ever known can give that speech about the backbone of the economy or the engine of the economy. But the real question is, will they support small business at a time like this? The PPP is a really good start. We tend to be critical when it's the right thing to do, and often it is about our government. But I think the PPP is truly a lifesaver for a lot of companies, and we've been willing to say that, and now we need more of it if we're going to survive.
Well, we need more of it. We need certainly great leadership from our leaders in government. We need great leadership from our business leaders. And we need every single person of the 10 million here in Michigan getting on board and working together. We're going to, I'm optimistic. This is a challenge, and your 14% number you shared with us this morning, that is sobering. But I'm optimistic that this is all going to go well. And our economy was great before. It'll be great again, but it's not going to be a light switch. Rob, thank you so much. Rob Fowler, CEO, Small Business Association of Michigan. Really good to have you on. Thanks for taking all the time today.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it.
All right, here he is, Tyler, and that is the voice of small business here in Michigan, getting together with the governor, survey out 14% of small business owners say their business is at risk. This is a challenging time for the state. But again, I am pretty happy to hear that conversation is going on. That dialogue is going on between the governor, small business, the Republicans, conservative talk show hosts. I mean, it's all happening. So as long as we're talking, that's a good thing.
It has to happen because, as Rob said, 14% of the businesses that the Small Business Association of Michigan surveyed think they may not make it out of this. 44% of small businesses that they surveyed said they're closed right now. So having that dialogue be open across multiple points of views is going to be absolutely key, because it's the difference between choosing, from a small business standpoint, who lives and dies, and choosing how we make sure that as many as possible, or all, live.
Small businesses are the restaurants, they're the retailers, they're the service organizations. Just so folks know, the federal government identified small businesses as businesses under 500 employees. To me, that's a pretty big business. Yeah. That's an awful lot of people here in the state of Michigan. So hope you don't mind us taking so much time with Rob. I thought he was really informative and had great things to say. We wish them good luck this afternoon with the governor. So we have a busy hour coming up. We're going to talk to Greg Flynn, the chief of the West Bloomfield Fire Department. He'll join us in a couple of minutes, and we thank the Fire Department of West Bloomfield for being available today for us on Facebook. We are on their Facebook Live page. Dr. Jamie Taweel joins us, internal medicine specialist. We'll talk about the latest information and try to get some feedback about what's going to happen with Beaumont having such terrible financial trouble, and maybe we're going to find out in the next couple of days that our other big health facilities here in southeastern Michigan, and maybe a lot of frontline docs who many of their offices have been shut down virtually. We'll find out exactly how they are doing. And then we're going to check in with Pat Watson. He's a superintendent of the Bloomfield Hills School District, see what's going on with education. I also like hearing from Pat because he's just wise on so many levels. It's really good to have his thoughts and his comments. We are going to take a quick break. Let's get a station ID in here and thank our radio stations and keep the FCC happy. 89.3 WBLD, Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH, Bloomfield Hills, and 89.5 WAHS, Auburn Hills. We're going to be back on our radio stations and on Civic Center TV and Facebook and much more in just a moment. This is the Megacast.
The Centers for Disease Control in Oakland County Health Division encourages households to prepare for the possibility of a coronavirus outbreak in their community. Keep extra items in your house for an extended stay at home. Remember any special food items for babies, the elderly, and pets. Keep non-prescription drugs and other health supplies on hand, such as personal medications, at least 1 month's supply, first aid kits, alcohol-based hand sanitizer, at least 60% alcohol, non-mercury thermometer, and get copies and maintain electronic versions of health records. Talk with family members about how they would be cared for if they got sick and what would be needed to care for them in your home. Learn about the plan at your child's school and your workplace. Discuss sick leave policies and/or telework options for workers who become ill. For more information, go to oakgov.com/health or call our Nurse on Call hotline at 1-800-848-5533.
Hi, I'm Oakland County Executive Dave Coulter. Our top priority remains slowing the spread of COVID-19 in our communities. please stay home. And when you must go out to an essential business, take precautions like social distancing and washing your hands when you come home. Because of the pandemic, we are behind in our response rate in Michigan. While you are home, please take a few minutes to fill out the census. It is more important than ever that we receive money back from our federal government. The census is Oakland Together.
Welcome back to the Megacast. Dave, Scott, Tyler Kieft in our Lakes FM studios. Thank you for tuning in on Civic Center TV, Channel 15, Channel 99 on AT&T, and you can tune in to AT&T Channel 99 across all of Oakland County. Thank you for tuning in on 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 WBFH, The Biff, and WAHS 89.5 Avondale Community Radio. West Bloomfield Fire Department is our Facebook partner today, and you can go to their Facebook page and watch along with our other online media. Don't forget, do the basics. You know, we get into all the complexity of the show, but you got to make sure when you're out, you wear your face mask, you keep your area clean, as we are often doing here in our studio. You're 6 feet of separation. Tyler is a little tight right now, but get over there. Get on your side of the studio.
As far out of the way as it possibly can.
Yeah, you don't want to be over here on my side of the studio. In a couple of minutes, we're going to talk to Greg Flynn, the chief of the West Bloomfield Fire Department. He'll be joining us via Zoom, and he's always in it. The thing I like about his Zoom interviews, he's always somewhere different. Yes. He'll be in his office one day. He'll be sitting on a fire truck the next day. We'll check in with him in a couple of minutes. Dr. Jamie Taweel joins us. He is our local Dr. Sanjay Gupta on this show, and we'll get some continued updates from him. Really good to see as testing has been in the news, these additional testing centers popping up. I saw a number of stories around the area, not just here in Oakland County, but from some of our other regional partners here. The testing has popped up, but the testing that we have in Oakland County at Henry Ford Hospital, at St. Joe, and now the testing that we have at the Oakland County facility, at the Oakland County Courthouse up on Telegraph. It's much more than we've had in the past. In Detroit, they're doing the same thing. If you're across 8 Mile, the State Fairgrounds is all set up. That drive-through testing there is going great. And I think I heard that that's more accessible to people in Detroit. Yesterday, we heard in the show that if you're a first responder, you don't need any kind of prescription. All you need to do is just head down, and they'll give you a test. So more testing available for our first responders. And Tyler, I think if you pick up the phone and call the county at the county number, which we have on our website, or you can go to the county's number, if you call, they're going to get you a test. They are going to get you a test. You just need to have some symptoms, and they'll get you tested.
Yeah, and they even said earlier on in the week, they even said yesterday that you don't necessarily have to go through your doctor. You go through the number, you answer a few questions, and they'll determine if it's prudent for you to come on down and get a test. You may not be able to get in the day of your call, but
quickly. I heard they were turning those tests around really quickly.
Yes.
And that they were getting people in the system really quickly. Other news stories that we are keeping an eye on today across our area. The Michigan stay-at-home order is still in place there for at least until the end of the month. So we got 10 days. The governor is asking everybody to give it their very best as we go over the finish line. And then the legislature and the governor will work on the next step, figure out what that plan's going to be. Getting a little help today from the Small Business Association of Michigan, the folks you just heard from. Beaumont, they're saying they have serious financial challenges. 2,475 people laid off, and they've eliminated 450 positions. We got the whole press conference recorded. We'll put it up on the website. If you missed it earlier today, you can tune in and check that out. University of Michigan, they're having challenges as well, just as we all are. They say they're going to take $1 billion hit. And Rob Fowler, the CEO of the Small Business Association of Michigan, just came on. They are releasing a survey today, and his survey says that 44% of the small businesses in the state are closed, and 14% even after they come out. Even after we come out of this whole crisis, 14% of those small businesses are at risk. That is the latest from the Small Business Association of Michigan. So those are our headlines. This guy always makes headlines every time he comes on the show. We are joined now by Chief Greg Flynn of the West Bloomfield Fire Department joining us via Zoom. Hello, and you're in your office today. You're not sitting on a fire truck or some other exotic location. You're there at work today, Chief Flynn.
We are. I'm Zooming all morning, so I'm Zooming from one meeting to the next. That's the world that we live in right now. So I go home, and that's what I hear about from my kids and my wife too. They've been Zooming all day long. So
I'm just going to do the easiest thing a radio host and TV host ever did. I'm just going to get out of the way and ask you a very open-ended question. So what's up? So you've been on all these Zoom meetings today. What's the news? What do we need to know today, Greg Flynn?
the headline for us today is the governor's press conference yesterday that she opened up the phase 3 and phase 4 asymptomatic, non-symptomatic testing for first responders and other essential workers. This is a huge thing for us. I think it speaks to two things. Number one, the importance of testing those that are out there in the workplace right now. And number two, the availability of testing. And those are two welcomed changes that we have before us here in the great state of Michigan.
Yeah, and we heard the same story yesterday from Dr. Russell Faust, who is the head of the health department here in Oakland County. And you've probably talked to him before. He is a very impressive physician. We were really happy to have him on with us yesterday. And he said, yep, first responders, come on down. We'll get you tested right away. Is that having the very positive emotional impact one would expect with our first responders as well?
It is. And David, you've watched this story develop over the past 5 or 6 weeks now. You can see just how quickly information comes out, and then unfortunately, or how quickly we hear about something developing, and then the amount of time it takes to become reality. And the diversity of the guests that you've had on the Megacast speak to, I think, a better understanding of how all of those changes impact our community. But, I had one of my crews in the morning briefing say, Chief, we're hearing about Detroit doing the Abbott lab testing, the 15 minute or so testing, the very quick testing. Why can't we get that? Those things just get talked about and highlighted in the news like they're just everywhere. And that's not the case. And everyone leaves out the price tag and who's going to pay for it and who's going to operate it. And, there's always more to this story than just the headline.
Chief Flynn, and that's why we do this show. And that's why I appreciate you coming on, because this has been a no BS platform. We just called it the way it is because what else are we doing here, right? And you do get a very 10,000-foot level perspective from the national media and even from the governor, because that's what they have to cover. So here on the show, we gut check it. What's really going on? So to that end, Dr. Faust said, you can get a check. Yesterday, he said on the show, you can get a check, and it can happen in about 24 hours. It's not going to be 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. So they've got a lot quicker testing. I mean, let's be honest. At the beginning of this thing, Greg, we were waiting, for a week and a half for results. If we get results in a day or two, that's pretty darn quick right now, wouldn't you say?
It is, and that highlights just how quickly the healthcare professionals have ramped things up, how our folks working in the lab have really risen to the task of processing the number of tests. Now, keep in mind, the tests that we're administering right now, to the best of my understanding, Dave, is we're looking at that snapshot, when that swab was taken, whether or not you are positive or negative for COVID-19. That's all we're doing. So that doesn't imply that you never will be tested again. And that's something to keep in mind, different than the antibody test, which you're hearing about. And we hear about these things because these are things I believe that they do for other viral infections or other infections so that we can see what your body's immune system is doing. So we just intuitively think, well, hey, just do it for this one too. And magically, this all just happens. And the other reality we're getting from this is truly our dependence on our scientists, our clinicians, our researchers that make sure this is all happening. And I know when you have folks from the school district on and things like that with Dr. Hill and other folks that are professional educators, that this is where they're pushing, for having more of these folks and careers. And this is the kind of impact you can have. I will say, we're hiring at the WBFD. And
Okay.
you can imagine right now the complexity of trying to get applications right now with Township Hall that is following the governor's executive order and is shut down. Testing that we need done of our applicants, whether it's a physical agility test or a written exam, all those facilities are shut down. So there are definitely challenges out there. I throw that last bit in. I know I went down a rabbit hole there, but this idea though that we need these professionals, that's the impact you can have on a community. And
Well,
sometimes
let's just take 30 more seconds. We can do your recruiting on my show. That's okay. Let's take 30 more seconds and talk about that because, look, based on what the information we have right now, Small Business Association of Michigan, Rob Fowler, 10 minutes ago said 14% of the businesses are at risk. That's just an opinion survey from businesses. And, we got 1 million people laid off right now or collecting unemployment in Michigan. If a couple of them are listening or watching this morning and they thought, hey, maybe I'd want to be a fireman, now's a good time. It's a good time for a career change because you are hiring, and I assume other fire departments are as well.
We are, and unfortunately for applicants for our jobs, we do have a series of criteria that you need to meet. You need to be a paramedic already. We'll send you to fire school. We will. So that's a 7 or 11 a week academy style program, and they'll teach you everything that you need to know, and then we'll put all that to work here in serving West Bloomfield, Orchard Lake, Sylvan, and Kego. But there's always an opportunity for that. And I think sometimes even as an employer, that role, taking off kind of the emergency manager, fire chief hat here and looking at just as a manager, finding some of those folks that have brought rich career experiences from other places into the FD can make for a great addition. They appreciate maybe the work environment a little bit differently than somebody else because they've worked outside swinging a hammer in construction or have taught kids in school or, whatever, some of these other jobs that are very, very stressful jobs, just like sometimes emergency services can be.
Chief Flynn, you're on the front line. Just curious, what's it like? Are you seeing calls up, down? We hear and we see the statistics now that fewer are infected. We're starting to finally flatten that curve a little bit. But I always like to hear feedback from the front line on a day-to-day basis and the people who are out there. Are you seeing the flattening of the curve with regard to your operation in the West Bloomfield Fire Department?
Yes. We'll jump on board and say that we are seeing multiple data points, multiple days that we start to feel comfortable that there is some flattening. Now, like I've said before, flattening does not mean it's gone. And I think we start to use some of these terms like our goal was to get to flattening the curve. That was our next objective. And we feel like we've reached that. And a sigh of relief. No, we're not done. This is just one of those milestones that we needed to get to, and we've achieved that. Why? As you have highlighted so many times before on this program, thanking the residents, thanking the community, thanking the businesses for the struggles and the hardship that they've taken on to get us to this point. Now we need to finish this thing out, though. And while we're seeing fewer calls, we still are seeing very sick people. So yes, the call volume, yes, the shock, yes, the campaign of saying, call your doctor, don't call 911, call your doctor, don't show up at the emergency room. All of that worked, Dave. It worked and continues to work. But we still have very, very sick people. So maybe every ventilator is not being used. There are still people on ventilators. So while I celebrate with the community that we're doing a good job, we need to be careful that we continue to push.
Well, we do.
Keep doing the things we're doing.
We do, and I think it's inevitable that unless something surprising happens medically, that this is going to open up a little bit. That's the next phase. So governor, legislature, other organizations are talking about it now, and we'll know. We've only got 10 days left before the governor's orders expire, and there's going to have to be a new set of orders and around the country. We saw a couple of states already starting to loosen things up, and it's going to happen here in Michigan at some point in some way. And then now it's back on us. It's back on the people. We're going to have to, as we start going into theoretically going into restaurants, businesses start opening up. Maybe the gyms start opening up. Wherever it is you go, the coronavirus is still out there, okay? So we want everything to open up. Well, now you got to behave yourselves. You got to take everything. You got to wash your hands. You got to do all these things. And I think people are up to it, but I think we're going to make some mistakes, and we're going to need some help, and some people are going to trip a little bit. But, listen, we can't leave everything closed down forever. We got to trust people. And I think you guys the first responders have done us an amazing service. You have shown us the way. You really have. The first responders, the folks at the hospital, people that are just staying at home. They've all shown us the way. Now we got to follow. And I got faith. I think people can follow, but it's going to be an interesting couple of months.
I love the message, and I'm on board with you. I believe that our community, I've said it before, an informed community is a responsible community. And that's where we live here in the greater West Bloomfield broadcasting, the far reaches of the Megacast. That's where we are, Dave. And I think that's, I don't want to, dip my toe in the political pool here, but it's very difficult to talk about reopening without the politics being injected into the conversation. And I think that's where so many of us get frustrated, is it's not the politics. I'm concerned that, one of my favorite lunch spots to go with the crew here, the Golden Phoenix, I want them to open. We like the staff there. We like supporting them. And I'm genuinely concerned about the restaurants in our community that so many of us love to go to. I want them to be open. We're anxious to go back out to lunch here in fire administration because that's a way of giving back. And so, we do need to navigate that. I think we do need to give more credit to our residents and the people that are out there. And there's a very delicate balance there, right? Of giving them credit so that they also don't tip too far another way with a radical approach that can be disruptive. So we need to find that balance. And that's where I think the governor has a very difficult job. And, leading a small group in comparison to what the governor's trying to lead, I do have an appreciation for what she's trying to accomplish. And I heard one of our elected officials say in the board meeting last night, we need to support our governor, and we do need to find balance in that support. We do need to be behind her as she's trying to achieve an outcome that we all are behind, which is more lives saved. But we also need to make sure that we're getting those communities and those businesses back up and running, which is also going to impact lifestyle.
Well, one of the things that I find so rewarding in doing the show, sorry to interrupt, one of the things I find so rewarding in doing the show and that I've experienced over my broadcasting career is that for the most part, not entirely, but for the most part, things get a lot less political as we get more local. And you'll see that as you go into your local boards and commissions. It's not always obvious who's the Republican and who's the Democrat. Sometimes you got to tear that apart when you look at things really locally. We don't always know. So I think that's good. Clearly the president and Nancy Pelosi and our governor and our legislature, we know who they are and where they are. But I'm really, I'm pretty happy today. I heard the governor on Paul W. Smith's show on WJR. He asked her Republican questions. She gave him Democratic answers. They had a really good conversation. That's good. The governor is going to be on the Small Business Association of Michigan's conference call this afternoon. That's good. No one's got the answer. And I do give the governor a lot of credit. Here's what I give her credit for. It's impossible to write these rules. So if she got it right or wrong, you got to give her a break, okay? If you think she got it wrong, you got to cut her some slack because you go and try and write the rules. And then at least have the conversation. Try to have the conversation in a civil way. And, she's had some moments where she's got a little irritated. I think we all do during difficult times. And then I think people have gotten a little irritating too. So we'll see what happens. I urge everybody to just leave the partisan stuff aside and let's go figure it out, because it's going to be a lot harder to put this thing back together. Humpty Dumpty is a lot harder to build and put back up on that wall, and that's what we have to do right now. Where do you see the fire department, our local officials, the other fire departments across our area, what's their role as we try to put this thing back together, Chief Flynn?
I I think we're defining what that role looks like moving forward. We're navigating right along with everybody else, Dave, and where people are stepping up and stepping into the challenge. That's just what the FD is doing as well. What is the next unknown? How can we contribute to testing? I've got a group of men and women here that are medical professionals that may play a role in that, and that are mobile and that are equipped to be in all kinds of weather and all kinds of terrain and can go anywhere, right? So we need to be inviting opportunities for reaching our objectives and looking maybe for out-of-the-box solutions for how we achieve that. And just because someone isn't wearing a set of scrubs doesn't mean that they're not going to be able to help with the solution. And you're seeing that. I saw a volunteer group, Assistant Chief Andy Besnow retired from the fire department not too long ago, and I saw on social media they're doing making gowns for first responders out of a visqueen, a plastic material, and they give folks a pattern and they pick up the materials and they go home and they make the gowns, and then they make 20, let's say, or 30 gowns out of this roll of plastic, and then they drop them back off, and then someone distributes those. We are creative. We are innovative as a community, and we're going to figure that out. And the FD is part of that. And I know that you've had Director Tucker on from Parks and Recreation, and I've had conversations with her, and they're looking at their team and how they can re-engage some of our most at-risk population. We know that our seniors are at risk for the disease, but we also know they love coming together as a community. So how can we continue to do that? We're very focused on our extended care facilities, and we include our nursing homes, independent and assisted living facilities in that, Dave. And we're going to work on stronger partnerships, even stronger partnerships with them, and what the FD may be able to integrate into their system so we can combat COVID-19 inside those facilities.
We look forward to hearing from you on that. Let us know, if you don't mind, and you could share it with us, what those partnerships look like. A very quick question. Are they getting the testing they need in those facilities? Are we to the point now where we can get everybody tested in there to make sure we know the status of everyone in all of those facilities?
So I hate to do this to you. I'm not equipped to answer that one, Dave.
Okay.
I'm not in tune enough to know what their inter-facility testing is like. I do know that they frequently can send people out, or they're getting test results back, and then we're transferring patients over to the hospital for more definitive care. So there is a system in there. We just need to figure that out. I think what I might need to do, we might need to take the Megacast into the back of an ambulance here, and we'll get you guys.
Can you think I could do that? I mean, if you want to do that, I could do that. Would it be safe? Are we putting any lives at risk if we do that, including my own?
Well, yours, yours would probably be the life that we'd have to be most concerned
about.
All right,
well,
maybe we can talk offline to see if we can get you. It'd be nice for the community to see a little bit of.
I'm up for it. I'm up for it.
The decon process and what it looks like through that lens on the front lines.
I'm up for it.
We can explore what that looks like.
I don't want to bring a photographer because I don't want to take any additional risk, but I can do it with my cell phone and Zoom, and we can just run around and do it live. And Tyler, if you can hold the fort down someday here, maybe I'll just spend one day making runs with the fire department. Is that okay with you?
I'm fine with that.
All right, Chief.
Tyler had me sweating the other day while you were gone. Tyler popped up, and I was beating up pretty bad.
He's doing a really good job. He doesn't need me here anymore. All right, Greg, we got to run along. Thank you very much.
Okay,
I appreciate it.
Good. Thanks, guys.
Greg Flynn, West Bloomfield Fire Department, one of our great fire department chiefs here across our Oakland County broadcast area. We're going to take a break. We'll be back. Dr. Jamie Taweel joins us when we return. This is the Megacast on 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 WBFH, WAHS 89.5 Avondale Community Radio, and on CivicCenterTV.com. We'll be right back.
Technology like smartphones are wonderful devices to reduce social isolation in older adults. You can call grandchildren, phone friends, participate in fitness classes, and play games. But you need to stay mindful of scams. Scams related to the COVID-19 virus are rising. These include attempts to obtain personal information from seniors, including pitching unreliable products, advice, tests, and cures.
You need to stay vigilant and be cautious. If you feel that you have been taken advantage of, it's okay for you to reach out to somebody you know and seek out advice, or even contact your medical provider. Thank you.
Thank you. This is the Megacast. Dave Scott, Tyler Kieft over on the other side of the studio. We thank you for joining us wherever you happen to be. Civic Center TV, civiccentertv.com, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 WBFH, the Biff, and WAHS, 89.5 Avondale Community Radio. I always feel better when there's a doctor in the house, and our doctor is Dr. Jamie Taweel, and he checks in via Zoom. Hey, Doc, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Feeling pretty good. So, let's just start off on the emotional side. I know you're more into the pure medical side, but I heard a story. I don't know if you've been experiencing this or any of your patients have. I saw a story today. It says we're all having these really weird dreams. And it's because I know you didn't expect me to ask this. This is not your area of expertise. So I'm just asking you, person to person. We're having these dreams because there isn't enough going on in our life for our brain to formulate dreams right now because we're at home doing the same thing every day. And so because of that, we're having really odd dreams. And, that's happened to me. Have you been having any strange dreams at all, Doc?
Have I? No, but I can imagine how that would be definitely happening. That the volume of information that we receive as people, just from internet, TV, and all the things just going out about our daily lives, and that suddenly gets narrowed down, I think our subconscious starts to pick up a little bit. So absolutely, I can see that happening.
So the biggest news in the medical front here in the Detroit area today is actually in the financial side. Beaumont comes out with news that they're going to be laying off thousands of doctors, and I don't think most of us have thought about how this is all working financially. We just go to get treated. Beaumont, they just came right out and said they're in big trouble. They lost millions of dollars first quarter. Do you think this is rampant across the entire medical industry, that we're going to continue to see other institutions that are having some financial challenges?
Certainly. I can tell you, just as a primary care physician that's dealing with, a lot of patients, a lot of them are reluctant to go to the hospital, very much so, because they're afraid that they're going to go there and get coronavirus rather than get treated for it. So I can't tell you how many times patients are calling me up or talking to me and saying, listen, I don't want to go anywhere near that hospital. I can see that volume's going down. I know other hospital systems have laid and furloughed off a significant number of employees. I think I even read in that same article, the CEO took a pretty significant pay cut, which is usually a big deal in these types of scenarios. So it's devastating. Everybody.
Do you see, again, I didn't think about it. We talked to an orthopedic doctor earlier this week who said they've not been able to do some of the procedures, the knees, the shoulders, the other pains here and there, and the surgical procedures. Do you think as we start to open things back up that we might see some of those routine elective, I don't know if they're routine, some of those elective surgical procedures come back? Or do you think that it's needed? People have been waiting a long time for some of these elective procedures.
Yeah, and those are also moneymakers for hospitals, these elective procedures. Surgeries and procedures are how a lot of hospital systems do make money. So they're going to try and ramp that up back as soon as possible, I would imagine, my opinion anyways. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of people that have been putting off procedures that otherwise could have been done sooner had this not been an event. But yeah, they're going to, I have a feeling that's going to start up in hopefully sooner than later, but obviously they're going to do every precaution possible to make sure that it's not too soon and that we're not going to create more problems. But people are waiting, and even one of my closest friends, his wife was due for a C-section. They considered that an elective surgery and actually had to push that a little bit out. So, these things can get pretty.
So that surprises me. I mean, they can only push that so far, right?
They didn't. They pushed it a little bit further than she would have been comfortable with. It was about a week out past her due date, but they obviously it was not an elective surgery, but a required one, but more along that kind of blurred line there.
Dr. Taweel is joining us, Dr. Jamie Taweel, internist right here in Oakland County. We thank him so much for being our local medical expert here on the show. So the governor has 10 days. And she's got a tough decision in front of her. It won't be all hers. Michigan legislature will weigh in as well, and they're going to try to come up with some kind of a solution. We heard from the business community via the Small Business Association of Michigan earlier today. Governor's been pretty clear. She seems to want to err, if she does, one way or the other on the side of protecting people's health. I'd be interested to hear your perspective, from a physician perspective, as we get ready to open things up here in Michigan. Our numbers, they've plateaued a little bit, but Michigan's still one of the worst areas in the country, one of the most prolific coronavirus COVID-19 areas of the country. Where do you weigh in on this whole debate, and any thoughts on how we should begin to get back to normal?
So it's a tough decision to make. And I think that the big issue that we're also dealing with is that we're still limited on tests. I think we have a piece of the data, not all of it. And the testing has also been limited to, people like earlier, stating that the tests were limited to people that are highly symptomatic rather than people that just had exposure. So I don't think we have all of the data quite yet to make quite a decision. It is plateauing a bit, but again, we're also limiting tests, and it's not plateauing as rapidly as I think we would like it to be. Excuse me. But I do think that it's going to be a very cautious rollout. I certainly think we should be cautious in this rollout. And believe it or not, I want businesses to open more than anybody else. But at the same time, I'm not going to do it. I would not recommend doing it at the expense of human lives. So I think we need to see things just mellow out a little bit more before we get what I would consider to be an expected bump once we reopen things.
So, Dr. Taweel, at some point, they are going to open businesses back up. So what kind of things should we as business owners be thinking about? What kind of things can we do to protect our employees as they start to come back to work? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I do. I think continuing the social distancing, I think that's going to be the norm from this point on. I think businesses will open up, and I think there's going to be a very cautious period of time. I think people are going to continue to wear masks. I would hope people continue to wear masks. I would hope people continue to, use hand sanitizers, practice social distancing, wash their hands, doing the Gupta hand wash that you mentioned that you do. And I think it's going to be a cautious, slow rollout before people feel very comfortable with this. And I think, the hysteria that I was initially seeing among a lot of people, I think is starting to calm down a little bit, and cooler heads are starting to prevail, thankfully. And I think people are now starting to just be reasonable. So, at one point they started at one end of the spectrum where they were locked in. Now they're starting to be a little bit more social, but at the same time, very precautious. So I think we're at a pretty reasonable spot. And I think that it's just going to be for business owners to protect their employees, they're going to have to just continue to reinforce all of these things, and bear in mind that risks are certainly, I think the other one thought that just crept into my head was that, business owners have to be vigilant if an employee has symptoms to under no circumstances allow them to continue to work. They should go home and continue those self-quarantine restrictions.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about it, Dr. Taweel. As I get ready at my business to have employees come back, we have had nobody here in our radio studio, just the three of us, and we've all been very careful and a daily briefing and keeping everything clean, and we're wearing our masks. We don't do it when we're in the broadcast studio, but when we're out of here, we do. But I'm just thinking, what's the toolkit that a business needs? Well, you're going to have a bunch of hand sanitizer. You better get stocked up on that. You might as well get stocked up on it now. It might take you a while to find it. I mean, I think businesses are going to business owner. We wash your hands. We know all that stuff. I think, hot, wash your soap, use your soap rather, sing the happy birthday song a couple of times. Maybe we should start getting an inventory of masks too. Employees might not show up at work with them. It might be helpful to have some of those supplies, and businesses start thinking about that now, because you may be open in a couple of weeks or a month or 2 months.
Absolutely. I think the biggest, in my opinion, the best resource that a business can have is education. Education for their employees, a set of standards and practices in place that they've come up with ahead of time so that there's no confusion. Here's how we're going to deal with these things, so employees know how to deal with things. I think, everybody's, I went to the park the other day and walked my dog, and, people are walking around looking like they're restaining furniture. They're wearing the gas masks and they got the gloves on. And you know what, though? It's what needs to happen. Yeah. And I'm glad they are. So it's they're at least able to enjoy the things, but they're taking appropriate precautions.
It used to be a lot of companies, probably a lot of bigger ones, have the company nurse. Maybe, in addition to the HR consultant that a lot of medium and small-sized businesses, maybe we need to have a doctor on staff. Maybe Dr. Taweel, when I get my staff together, maybe I'll just put you on Zoom and let you tell everybody what to do. And, that might be a whole nother business sector for doctors or other health, doesn't have to be physicians, but some health consultants to let people know what to do, because I'm sure there's a ton of confusion. People don't know what to do.
Yeah, I think there needs to be guidelines set in place. I think there should be something that's going to be put together. Hopefully, maybe we should contact the health department and determine whether or not they have a set of guidelines in place that they can set out to all the businesses to make sure that things are being appropriate. I have no doubt that something like that will come up, but I'm always available to answer questions if you guys want to.
Well, thank you. I wouldn't inconvenience you like that, but I might. We had Dr. Faust on the show yesterday from the Oakland County Health Department. I think you're right. I think they're going to probably put together that information so businesses can have some idea and just continue to update all of us as they've done so far with information. Dr. Taweel, anything else you want to add? Anything else in your mind today that people should be aware of?
No, just stay safe. I know it seems like I'm getting this general feeling from the public that it's things are just on the horizon, and I can appreciate that excitement and that sentiment, but at the same time, do not lose your heads quite yet. Let's just keep this momentum going for a little bit longer, get that curve just a little more flat, and make sure people are staying safe. And I advise them strongly to continue it. Any problems or questions or concerns, always contact your doctor. We're here to help.
All right, that's great advice, and I think when things do open up, we'll need to even step up the communication a little more, and I know you'll be here to give us a helping hand. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Taweel joining us here, Dr. Jamie Taweel, internal medicine specialist, and our good friend right here on the Megacast. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in a moment, and in the next couple of minutes, we're going to check in with Patrick Watson. He's the superintendent of schools in Bloomfield Hills. It'll be good to get an update from him. We really enjoyed talking to him last time he was on the show. I'll tell him in a minute that we've been using some of his quotes in our daily activities here. So we'll get an update on how things are going in one school district, Bloomfield Hills, and an update on how the districts are doing at large. We'll be back in a moment. This is the Megacast.
Coronavirus is deadly, but Michigan can fight back. Our front doors are the front lines of defense. Staying home is the best way to stop the spread, because just one infected person can give it to 40, who can give it to countless more. So call Grandma, don't visit. Video chat, don't meet up. And if you must go out for food or medicine, keep at least 6 feet from others. Stay home, stay safe, stop the spread.
Stay home, stay safe, and stop the spread. That is a message from the state of Michigan. Will continue to be so. And we will hear, as the headlines have played out here in the last 24 hours, we will continue to hear from our governor and the legislature over the next 10 days what's going to be happening with all of us. Are they going to loosen up some of the guidelines? We're going to continue to find out what leadership we get from the state of Michigan with regard to schools as well. And with an update from the Bloomfield Hills School District is our good friend Pat Watson, and we check in with him via Zoom. I'm laughing. I've just seen the picture. Hey, I thought the beaches were closed, Pat Watson. We see a great picture of some palm trees and waves behind you.
Right, the beaches are closed, but not my own private virtual beach, which with today's weather forecast, I definitely need to foreshadow what my future might hold down the road.
I think these Zoom backgrounds are about the coolest thing that everyone's, putting up their own Zoom background. So I appreciate your effort there. I like your Zoom background, and I want to be in your virtual space too. Pat Watson, I appreciate your visit with us a little bit over a week ago here on the program. And not only did you share a lot of information, as we expect to hear again today, of what's going on in education, but I just think you had some of the clearest things to say, and I want you to know that I've been using one of your quotes from the last show every day, and I've incorporated it into my communications with people because I think it was so on target. It's one of the best things I've heard anyone say, and it perfectly applies to where we are at right now. Every single one of us, I'm sure you remembered saying, hope is not a plan. Hope is not a plan. Listen, we all hope, But you got to have a plan, and everything we're doing, I'm saying that 50 times a day. I'll have to send you a check for that one. I hope you don't mind me borrowing your quote.
It's in the mail. I know. We're good.
So, that to me, that says it all. So I know you have hope in Bloomfield Hills, and I know you have a plan too. How are things going in your school district?
Going really, really well. We rolled out our continuous learning plan, and that's gone really well, made it web-based so parents have easy access to it. And now we're on to the next phases of planning, and part of that's about summer and providing a program for our students who may have not had the opportunity to be as engaged as they would have liked to have been based on their family circumstances right now. And then looking at what the fall is going to be like and whether or not we will be back in school. Or I remember years ago, and I know they did this down south, where they had an AM and a PM shift for students to come in. So is it, just trying to, not knowing what's going to happen, trying to plan for the unforeseeable, because no matter what happens, even if we're back in school and everything, everyone comes back, school has changed forever. And the other piece we're really looking at is just the mental health of our students when they do come back, because it's been very impactful for them to be out for so long, because for quite a few students, being at school is the safest place they can be.
Pat Watson, we have a great inspirational story from some students in your school district, as a matter of fact, that put together a website called Quarantine. I don't know if you're familiar with that site or not, but a couple of students from the Bloomfield Hills schools put the site together, Quarantine, and it is to help other teenagers. It's a teenager-to-teenager effort to help deal with some of the issues that teens have going on in their world. And they're it's hard being a teenager anyway, right? So that was a really good effort, and I'm glad that you recognize that is a big issue. It's tough for all of us, to deal with the emotional sides, and this has changed our world. So, and I'm sure it's acute in the student population.
Right. And we know that, so we're trying to, figure that out. And then for the senior class, all those end of the year things you've waited for 18 years, trying to come up with creative ways that we can celebrate our seniors before they move forward. And what their journey looks like might be a little different in the fall as well. I know there's a couple of college campuses that already said we're not having students in dorms in the fall. And so your freshman year might start out, you're at home doing online learning again. So just a lot of unknowns. So like I said, it's kind of where our preparation is right now. How do we prepare for whatever is going to happen so that if we need to pivot, we can do it? And we all know schools traditionally are kind of slow to change and move. I always give the example, you can take a teacher, a history teacher from the 1900s, plop them down in the classroom, give them a podium and a book, and they can figure something out as far as teaching and instructing. But if you took that doctor from 1900 and put that doctor in Beaumont, I would argue they most likely couldn't even turn on the lights. So again, point being, sometimes education takes a while to change, but I think everyone's got the point that we need to be nimble. We need to be able to pivot within a couple-day period, not a couple decade or century period. And, I kind of said that earlier, that education has changed forever. And I think that's one of the big changes we're going to see, is that schools can adapt on the fly to best meet the needs of their students.
Well, Pat Watson, Superintendent of Schools in Bloomfield Hills, I know better than to get on the other side of a debate with you. But the reality is that I give your teachers and you an awful lot of credit. What I've seen has been absolutely amazing. You guys have embraced technology. It seems like you've done it at a snap of the fingers. You don't have everybody that's doing their distance learning thing online at home, but you got a ton of people. You got computers in the hands of people. You're feeding people. You're educators. Yes, a 1900 era educator would have a very different challenge in front of them. Today, I don't know. I think there's an awful lot of change, and I think your people have done a great job making all this happen. It isn't easy. I just look at all the technology I got in here. It changes every day. So, you guys have done a really good job dealing with that. So I don't want to get in a debate with you because there's no right or wrong on this, but I just want to give you credit and everyone in Bloomfield Hills and the other districts for doing the amazing things you've done. You guys have accomplished so much in a short period of time. But to turn this into a question, who would have thought, really, when this whole thing happened and they closed school for the first day, we're thinking, okay, maybe a couple of weeks, maybe this will be a month. And now you're right. It's not inconceivable that this fall we won't be back in classrooms. So are you building a plan for that, Pat Watson?
Yeah, and kind of backing up, when we first went out, we have put together like a temporary plan, and then we used those 3 weeks to work on a plan with the expectation school would not resume. And, I had the fortune of speaking with a teacher in China who oversees the international school and how they've been closed for a long time. And she kind of felt that, this is where we were in China as well. We shut for a little bit. You probably are going to be like us and not reopen. And so we're really able to plan that way. So we're planning, what can we do to help students during the summer? What is school going to look like if we reopen? What is school going to look like if we don't reopen? What is school going to look like if we reopen, but we need to stagger how much contact students have? So for example, at the high school, do we decide that students come down with their teacher and get their lunch and eat in the room? That way they keep some social distancing so you don't have 800 kids in the lunchroom. What do after school activities look like? Do we have an AM, PM shift? So just some of the ideas that, I'm kind of writing down and as we prepare to move forward. But whatever decisions are made, whatever happens, I'm 100% confident we'll be prepared. I look at the work the teachers have done in the Bloomfield Hills School District, and it's truly second to none. And they've gone far and above what I would have expected them to do, and I'll be forever grateful and thankful for that. And they've really done everything they could to help students, which has been just amazing.
So our students that are going to be wrapping up their school year pretty soon this year, do you think there was a big gap? I mean, you're getting to the end of this school year now. Do you think there's been a big gap in the education that they received this year because of all that has gone on? And I hope you don't mind me asking you this frank, direct question. Or do you think that for the most part they got virtually everything they would have gotten, or maybe halfway there? What are your thoughts?
Great question. So I would break it up by grade level. If you're looking at seniors, knowing that a lot of seniors are, whether it's IB or AP testing started in May and teachers are kind of winding down, I think the seniors are pretty close to getting everything they would have received. And if you go all the way down to the elementary level, there is that time from mid-March until mid-June where students receive a lot of instruction, especially when it comes to reading, i.e. literacy and math. So with our online program, we're trying to make sure we cover some of the most essential things they need to know. And then as we build our summer program, we'll try to fill in those gaps. So rather than taking a summer school class, whether it's virtual or in person, which we don't know what we can offer yet, or a hybrid of both, and saying, well, you were a first grader, so now you're going to do this, so you're more prepared for second grade. It'll be, you were in first grade, you register for the first grade class again, and then we try to fill in any gaps that you might have so that you're at the same spot or maybe even further than you would have been if you were able to be in school for the full time. So there will be more gaps the younger the students are.
And you're in one of the best equipped, best financed districts in the state, maybe the country, in a very affluent community. Do you think the same is true, if you're willing to comment on this, in some of the other districts like Detroit and Pontiac that are on the other side of that continuum?
No, not at all. It's nowhere near equitable, not just with the funding, but also maybe with the resources that people might have. I know my son, who's an education major at Wayne State, he did his pre-student teaching, and he was having a conversation with students, and he said, well, when you were young, you went to the zoo, so you know what this animal looks like. And he was shocked by the number of students that said, no, I've never been to the Detroit Zoo. I've never been to a zoo in my life. I've never left this community. So there is definitely a disparity, without a doubt.
Is there anything that school districts should be doing? I know you talked to the other superintendents, and this is really more of an issue for the state and federal government. I recognize that. But, right here at home, is there anything we could do to help each other out?
That's a great question. I'm not sure what the answer is. I mean, we've talked about funding. We've talked about, I know personally I looked at the model that was used in Washington, D.C. Years ago, as far as you almost have like boarding school for students in urban areas. I'm not sure what the solution is going to be. This is not a new problem, right?
No,
this is something that's been talked about over and over and over again. My best guess is that when we come out of this, that people will have or yearn more for innovation within schools and thinking outside the box and doing things a little differently and trying to meet students where they are and where their interests are. And maybe that can propel some of the changes that we need in education.
Well, I think the interesting thing, and maybe it's a good time to have that conversation again, because maybe with all the other change that's going on, maybe it'll be somewhat easier to address some of those issues. But Pat Watson, thank you for joining us. Thank you for everything you're doing in Bloomfield Hills, and in particular, to be a little selfish, thank you for letting us broadcast the show every day on 88.1 WBFH, The Biff, broadcasting from Bloomfield Hills High School. We really appreciate that. Makes a huge difference, and we're able to reach a lot of people. And we look forward to continuing a dialogue with you. Anything else you want to share for folks in your community and around Oakland County before we say so long?
I guess last thing I'll say is, we all know these are stressful times, but I think, again, now more than ever, it's the time to make sure you treat everyone with dignity and respect, because everyone deserves that, even if their opinions might differ than yours. And I'll kind of leave you with that.
Well said. We're going to need a big dose of that as we work through the next couple of weeks. Pat Watson, thank you very much. I appreciate you joining us on the Megacast today. Good to have you on board, and hope is not a plan. Hope is not a plan. I love that. Tyler Kieft. Only got a couple of minutes before we say so long. We did a pretty good job of getting around the community today and talking to a bunch of folks from all over our listening area. And, we take a look back at the headlines. We got our hands full today because Beaumont has financial problems. We only got 10 days before the governor's orders expire, and she's got to get together with the legislature and the business community. University of Michigan says they're down $1 billion. This is only getting more complex, and our health may be slowly getting a little bit better, but the situation, the complexity of it is immense.
It is, and as much as we've focused thus far on improving the health situation throughout the state and throughout the country, we need to start not shifting focus, but adding additional focus to the financial side of that, and to the business side of that, and to the education side of that, because things are not going to be the same as they were before this crisis. It is a complex problem, and it's going to take creative solutions to return some sort of normalcy without putting a lot of people and a lot of businesses in jeopardy.
Well, one of the things that we've not been able to get to because we've been so busy taking care of the issues of the day over the past couple of broadcasts is our COVID-19 vocabulary. And we started the show, it's been like a month. It seems like it's been years.
It has. Oh, man.
But it was a little over a month ago we started the show. And when we started the show, we put together our COVID-19 vocabulary. These are new terms that we didn't use before that are now just, I'm sure, second nature to everybody. We're so far into this. But let's go through and see where we're at. Maybe we have a couple of terms that we want to add today. But let's go back to the beginning. Flatten the curve. I think we all know what flatten the curve is, but help us out.
Yeah, flatten the curve is just a concerted effort by the community to take precautions so that we can reduce the number of cases and deaths related to COVID-19.
It started out as social distancing, but we call it physical distancing.
It's keeping a specific distance of about 6 feet or greater from other people so as to reduce the chance that you are picking up the virus or passing it on if you are containing it.
And fomite transmission.
Fomite transmission is the transmission of the virus by things such as surfaces or other people, mostly through surfaces like metal and plastic, which is why you're being told not to touch your face because it's easy to pick up the virus through your eyes, your mouth, and your nose.
The Happy Birthday song.
It's a song suggested to be sung twice over while you're washing your hands to get a full and correct washing.
and asymptomatic. That's been a big term the last couple of days.
Somebody is asymptomatic, Dave. They may be carrying the virus, but not showing any physical symptoms of the virus.
Pandemic.
Pandemic is a worldwide viral spread. An epidemic is national. A pandemic is when it spreads worldwide.
And new normal, Tyler, new normal.
That's what we're living in, Dave. It is a new normal. It is a shifted normalcy situation from what was happening before the virus to what we're going to have to perform after the virus.
Here's a big one now, curbside testing. And curbside testing is going on more and more now.
Yeah, curbside testing is just quick, expedient testing that is usually through a drive-in method. And now in Oakland County, their curbside testing at the county offices showing results in 24 to 48 hours.
Absolutely incredible addition and more testing right here at home where we need it. Abundance of caution.
Taking extra precautions so as to make sure that you aren't passing on the virus or picking up the virus.
The Megacast, that's our own term.
That's what we are. It's not just any regular broadcast or simulcast. This is a county-wide news broadcast that brings information to people all throughout our listening area and our neighbors.
And added to the list today, we have an addition today, coronavirus pandemic dreams.
These are weird or odd or just different dreams that people are having because they're so stuck with stimuli from their daily life and from the news, and it just makes their brains work extra hard while they're sleeping.
Yeah, and I've had some really, really weird coronavirus pandemic dreams the last couple of days, and then I was like worried about it. What's wrong? Is there something physical going on in my brain, something chemical going on in the brain? I wasn't quite sure. But now we know it's a phenomenon that if you're experiencing, don't freak out. A lot of other people are. Finally, very briefly, we've been having a lot of issues about the availability of swabs. And the testing, they say, is out there, but the swabs have not been out there, Tyler.
They have not. That's one of those not PPE, but one of those medical needs that's increasing over time, and hopefully we'll get some more of those out there for more testing.
And it was about 2.5, 3 weeks ago that we recorded a little song here for the broadcast. Speaking of swabs, maybe a good time to play that as we wrap up today's broadcast.
They say we all must shelter in. They don't know where we've all been.
This is us, actually, in the song, not Tyler, but me.
Now I know just what to do. I'll test you, and you can test me too.
Babe, I'll swab you, babe. I'll swab you, babe.
I got a Q-tip right here in my hand, up your nose. Now that's the plan.
Ow. And then we'll know if it is true. No virus here. It's only a chew. So put your little hand in mine. All we need is just a slice of lime.
Well, we got corona, that is true. But just the fear, thank God, it's just the flu. Woo, we just got the flu, thank goodness.
Babe, I'll swab you, babe. I'll swab you, babe.
I'll swab you.
This is my favorite part to finish right here.
We have to do it in an abundance of caution. We've got to flatten the curve. We know it's going to get better. It's going to get better in West Bloomfield, Keego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, Orchard Lake, Oakland County, all across Michigan, all across America. We're not going to be worried about any coronavirus. We're going to be drinking Coronas this summer. It's going to be a great summer, and it's all going to be okay. Just stay cool. We're good. It's all right. It's fine.
I know, a little silly. Thank you, Michelle Conselmo and Byron Conselmo, who helped us record that, and Michelle performing with me there on I'll Swab You, Babe. as we try to fight through this real challenge with getting all the supplies. So thank you very much for tuning in today. That's going to be about it for the broadcast. I want to thank everyone involved. Tyler is now hitting a couple of buttons. Jeff, our producer, Ryan, and about 20 other people that have been working really hard on the show. Jake, our whole social media team, who takes all this thing and bundles it up and puts it back on the internet for us and pushes this out to so many people each and every day. We appreciate it. I want to thank the West Bloomfield Fire Department for including our broadcast today on their Facebook page. And if you want to offer up your Facebook page to the show, just send me an email, dave@civiccentertv.com, dave@civiccentertv.com, and we'll get our show on your Facebook channel and hopefully reach a lot of other people. Thanks to all of our guests today, and a big thanks to our outlets, the Greater West Bloomfield Cable Communications Commission, for allowing us to broadcast this from these studios and on Civic Center TV, and of course our amazing radio stations, 89.3 WBLD, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 WBFH The Biff, and that big stick in Avondale and Auburn Hills, WAHS 89.5 Avondale Community Radio. Thank you very much for tuning into the Megacast, and have a great day.